The smell hit me before the words did, her perfume, warm and citrus-sharp, filling the cab of my truck like it belonged there. Then came the whisper, low enough that I almost missed it under the hum of the engine. Take me somewhere private. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. 4 words, and the whole night tilted sideways. I want to be honest about something before I go further. I'd been telling myself for weeks that nothing was wrong. That's the first lie I need to unravel, because it's the one that got me into that truck in the first place. Vivian Ashcroft had been Dana's best friend since college, the kind of friend who shows up at your door at midnight with a bottle of wine and no explanation needed. Lately, though, she'd been quiet. Distant. Dana mentioned it once, over dishes, in that careful voice she uses when she's worried but doesn't want to name it. I hadn't thought much of it. Now, sitting in the dark with Vivian's request still hanging in the air, I understood, she hadn't been avoiding Dana. She'd been building up to something, and somehow, I was the one she'd chosen to say it to first. If you've ever felt that cold drop in your stomach when someone you trust says something you weren't ready to hear, that's exactly where I was. If that's ever happened to you, hit subscribe, because this story only gets heavier from here. I told myself it was simple. Marriage advice. Maybe she and her husband, Grant, were having trouble, and she needed someone outside the situation to talk to. That explanation felt so reasonable that I actually relaxed my grip on the wheel. I took the turn toward the reservoir without thinking twice, the one overlook in Asheville where the fog rolls low over the water this time of October, where Dana and I used to park and talk before we were even officially together. It felt safe. Familiar. That should have been my second warning. The story I was telling myself was too comfortable to be true. Then my phone buzzed against the console. Dana's name lit up the screen, and beneath it, 3 words, "Where are you?" My stomach dropped, because she wasn't supposed to be home yet. She'd told me she was staying late at her sister's. If she was texting me from somewhere she wasn't supposed to be either, then everything about tonight had already started before I knew it had. Here's the part one have to admit, even though it makes me look worse than I want to, I'd already turned onto that overlook road before I let myself register I was doing it. Some part of me had been steering there since Vivian first got in the truck. I hadn't decided to take her somewhere private. I'd already been driving there. What would you have done, turned around right then, or kept going to hear the rest of what she had to say? Because I kept going. And what she said next wasn't what I expected at all. Vivian turned to face me, her hands twisted together in her lap, and finally said the thing she'd clearly rehearsed a dozen times. "I think Dana's planning to leave," she said. Not herself leaving Grant. Dana. Leaving me. She said Dana had been talking about an apartment, about needing space, about a version of her life that didn't automatically include mine. Vivian hadn't wanted to tell me over the phone, hadn't wanted to say it in front of Dana, hadn't wanted to say it anywhere Dana might overhear. That's why, somewhere private, not a confession of her own, but a warning meant only for me. I sat there in the fog-heavy dark, feeling something shift that I couldn't name yet. Because here's the truth I'd been avoiding long before tonight: Dana had been asking for space for months, in small ways I'd chosen not to hear. A comment about feeling unseen. A joke that wasn't really a joke about doing everything alone. I'd built a story where everything was fine, the same way I'd built a story where Vivian's whisper meant something it didn't. I was the unreliable narrator of my own marriage, and I hadn't even realized it until someone else had to say the quiet part out loud. Vivian didn't want me somewhere private because of her. She wanted me somewhere private because she was trying to save something before it was too late, and the version of tonight I'd been dreading in the pit of my stomach wasn't the one that actually happened. The real one was quieter, and somehow it scared me more. I drove Vivian home in silence after that, the fog thinning as we came back down off the ridge. I didn't go straight home. I sat in the driveway for a long time, engine off, porch light glowing through the windshield, trying to figure out how long I'd been rewriting my own story to avoid an ending I wasn't ready for. So I'll ask you the same thing I had to ask myself in that driveway: How long have you been telling yourself a version of your life that's easier than the truth? If this one hits somewhere close to home, type the word private in the comments. I want to know I'm not the only one who's done that.